Hey everyone, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you with another wonderful, lovely vid. In this one, I'm gonna try my best to answer the question, what is metal, right? Specifically. Now, to be even more specific, I'm gonna ask, or try to answer the question, what separates metal from hard rock, right? And I think to begin to answer that question, we have to go back to the beginning. You know, to obviously, we're going to take a look at the first metal album ever, period. I would say for this album, no heavy metal songs existed. Now, to be fair, there were definitely things that were very close to heavy metal, but they weren't quite there. A lot of people argue that Zeppelin was, an early metal band, or the first metal band. That's argued quite a bit. Sometimes people say Deep Purple. You're wrong. That's not to say that Deep Purple went more the metal direction than Led Zeppelin did, but in my opinion, Led Zeppelin never released one single heavy metal song in their entire career. Not a one. The way I would describe Led Zeppelin is bluesy, psychedelic, hard rock, sometimes progressive, but they are definitely solidly in the hard rock category. They don't touch metal. They've never done one single heavy metal song ever, in my opinion. Deep Purple, really, in my opinion, didn't do a metal song until the album Machine Head, but so Sabbath was before that, so that's why Deep Purple's removed from that running. But because prior to Machine Head, Deep Purple was kind of, obviously they were different sound from Zeppelin, but they were kind of that same ilk, the heavy psychedelic hard rock, some progressive elements, yada yada yada. That's kind of the lane they were in, and they did go more towards the metal lane a bit as time went on, and they did some metal songs, but I don't think they ever did like a full metal album, right? They really haven't done that. They've more or less stayed like right on that hard rock edge, just like Zeppelin. Nothing wrong with that. I like Zeppelin quite a bit. I like Deep Purple quite a bit. Absolutely, totally fine, right? That's not to say anything bad about those bands. Unfortunately, I have a Deep Purple CD here, so I'm just showing you this. But, so, again, why is this metal? Oop, crap. But this isn't. A couple reasons. At least back in the extremely early days, what separated Black Sabbath from every other band of that time period, what made them metal? Well, I think it was a couple things. Most importantly, I think it was their guitar tone. It had this basically very sinister sound that no other band was doing with the guitar. Nobody else, right? And they had the Devil's Tritone in a bunch of their stuff, which again, most other bands weren't really doing. And Ozzy's eerie vote. Just the whole style of Black Sabbath was completely different than than the other bands of that time period that were on the hard rock side. Black Sabbath was simply doing things that these other bands weren't doing, which, of course, birthed the whole genre of heavy metal in the first place, right? It took, Tony Iommi's industrial accident with his fingers, I think, for the genre to be born in the first place. You know, because obviously he had to adjust his playing style, which led to the guitar tone, and you know, and that combined with Tony's unique riffing style, and you know, the lyrical contact, Ozzy's vocals, the whole 9 yards. That's what made heavy metal. That's what separated it really in the early days, right? And that's, of course, was the template. And I would say the second band to come along that was, you know, really of note in heavy metal, Judas Priest, obviously, would be the second one, but, you know, whatever. Then it just, the genre takes off. So I think really in the beginning, it was those things that separated Black Sabbath and made them the first truly heavy metal band. Period. So it's pretty simple, just riffing style, vocals, eeriness, yada yada yada, right? So that's that. That's the 70s, right? The very beginning. So we're gonna fast forward a bit to the 80s, and I tried to get show a few albums that are sort of similar in style, but once I show these two albums, you'll realize that there's not really a competition, you know, for which one is metal and which one isn't. The first one I'm going to show is Poison, Open Up and Say Ah. Yes, Poison fell under the glam metal category. I've never heard a metal song that Poison ever put out, ever. They put out some good rocking tunes, but nothing is metal about them. They're a rock band. I would argue some of their stuff is pretty good rock, but they are a rock band. They are not metal. But I would say this is, and this falls into the glam metal category as well, which is, this of course is Skid Row's self-titled debut. So what separates, you know, these two albums stylistically? Well, you could almost make similar arguments, you know, Black Sabbath versus all those other bands. I would say what makes this a metal album is way more aggression on this, in everything. Like, just everything is so much more aggressive about this. Like, the guitars, the drums, the vocals, the riffing style, the whole 9 yards. It sounds a bit darker, for lack of a better term, right? So, again, all of those things kind of separate it, right? And that's what separates the two. Now I'm going to show now we're going to jump ahead to the 90s. And I'm going to show two albums, one that's hard rock and one that's metal. And again, I ask the same question. So, first one I'm going to show, not metal, but awesome. And you could say this is a fairly heavy album. I think it is. There's a lot of heavy riffs on this, and it's great. But it's not metal. It's hard rock, right? And sort of in the same genre. Again, it's a stretch, but we got this. Some people don't consider Alice in Chains a metal band. They're borderline. They aren't, because obviously by the time this came out, I mean, there was like way more extreme stuff than this. I mean, you could say, well, of course, with Skid Row too, but I'm kind of trying to. It's not like I'm going to show Poison and Deicide together. That would just be ridiculous. But you know, you get the point here, right? Essentially, so what makes this metal and not this? Well, it's a little trickier in this distinction, right? Because both bands have a lot of darkness in their lyrics, right? They have that eeriness. They're both fairly aggressive bands too. Like the riffing style, all that is aggressive, right? But what separates these two? Two key things, I think. These guys don't write, quote, metal riffs. Metal riffs just have a certain, for lack of a better term, a certain edge, a certain sound. You know a metal riff when you hear a metal riff, right? You can have a lot of aggression and not be metal. And I think this band is a great example of that. An excellent example of that. You can have dark lyrics, you can have eeriness, you can have all that and still not be metal. I think Monster Magnet ticks all of those boxes very well. But I would never say that they're a metal band because that is just simply incorrect. So there you go. Alice in Chains, similar-ish style, but what makes them metal? Well, listen to their riffing. It's really all in the instrumentation. Like, it's the riffing style and just the edge, right? Metal has this edge to it that hard rock just doesn't have. And the reason I'm not going to show anything newer is I really don't have to, like, because, for example, stuff from like the 2000s or 2010s, I don't think anyone is going to consider like Shinedown metal, right? Shinedown is clearly a hard rock band. Not to say anything bad about Shinedown, but you know, nobody's going to confuse them for metal. Same thing with like a good band that I would say is borderline. Some of their stuff is metal and some isn't. Is Volbeat, right? And it's all about the sound, right? Like, what has that edge? Like, just that little bit of extra, you know, riffage, for lack of a better term. I think that is largely what separates hard rock from metal. It's a pretty thin line. Granted, I'm not going to say it's like, you know, it's this clear line. Everything, all hard rock belongs on this side, all metal belongs on that side, because a lot of bands that are in either genre, they will sometimes, you know, or very often write a song in the other style. So it's not like it's very messy, but there is definitely a difference. And metal is, it's basically, I would call it, you know, hard rock's slightly socially maladjusted brother, for lack of a better term. I mean, they are separate. I mean, they have the same parents, more or less. Their parents are blues and, you know, like lighter rock and roll and all that stuff. And they have largely the same parents, but they are separate genres. And I think that is largely what separates the two. And of course, I'm talking about, you know, I'm not talking, I'm just talking just the metal hard rock split. I'm not talking all the million and one subgenres of metal, like thrash, death metal, black metal, grind, all that shit. That's way the fuck over there. I'm talking about stuff that's just kind of right there on the borderline. So anyway, to me, that is what kind of separates metal from other stuff. There's just a bit more edge, a bit more intricacy, just a bit more. It's just a bit more in it, but it's enough for it to be totally its own thing. So, I hope I explained this fairly well. I'd really be interested to hear, of course, down in the comments below what you guys think of this, if you think I was on the mark or if you think I'm way off, whatever. So, what does metal mean to you? Be sure to let me know. That's it. As always, if you like this, thumbs up. If you don't, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Live long and prosper.